Welcome to the Rewriting Naruto series part 54. This is a series of videos where I rewrite Naruto, making changes to improve the story for my personal taste. Everyone like the video immediately to support the series, subscribe and ring notifications. Seriously, it takes 5 seconds for you to do all those things and it helps me out a lot. And let's get going. All crime lords are dead, Deidara told Onoki in his office the morning after he destroyed the everyday temple.
Very good, Deidara. I'll give you your next assignment in a few days. The underground infiltration took you almost 2 weeks, so you can rest a bit for now.
Fair enough, old man. Deidara smiled and made his way back home. He was radiating happiness. The destruction of the temple had been by far the most beautiful art piece he had ever created. He arrived at an empty home. Apparently all members of his foster family were on missions out of the stone village. He spent that day working on molding his art pieces and went to bed early, as he didn't sleep last night. The next morning, Kurotsuchi arrived from her mission. They both sat to have breakfast together. So you're finally back, Deidara? Took you long enough? Well, the mission was easy. It just took a lot to prepare for it. I kinda hate that type of assignment, he said, drinking from his glass of water. Of course, you prefer just to explode things. But don't you think when an explosion is hard to accomplish, it makes it more satisfying? They are not hard at all to accomplish. I can do them at will. Well, I meant a specific explosion on a specific target. Deidara remembered the temple and its obliteration. His face became a smirk. I suppose you're right. See? Well, anyway, my mission was pretty easy. And Mom and Dad should be back by the end of the week. Are they on difficult missions? Oh, I forgot you weren't here when they left. Well, not really. Pretty standard stuff. Dad is on a routine patrol in the land of Crystal's border. And oh yeah, this will make you giggle, I think. Mom went seeking out some new recruits around the land of Earth, and she told me she was going to get some from that temple of yours again. Deidara dropped his glass of water. It shattered on the ground. Before once, Deidara paid no attention to the unique patterns of destruction. Oh, come on, you're so clumsy, Kurotsuchi said, but Deidara gave no reply. He stared at nothing. His eyes trembled. Hey, stop daydreaming. Are you gonna clean up this mess? When did Kurohiri leave for the temple? I don't know, a few days ago. How much is a few? 4 days ago, I think? Why you wanna know? Was she going to any other places before the temple? No, the old geezer liked the results from the temple recruits. He told her to go there straight. Kurotsuchi has stopped calling the Tsuchikage Grandpa after what she learned from the secret mission Deidara received in the Chunin exams. She lost a lot of respect for him. Deidara would have pointed that change in behavior out, but he was still staring at nothing, remembering the temple's destruction, but now suddenly the sight terrified him. He stood up abruptly. I have to do something, and left the house. What? Oh, stop coming up with excuses and clean up your mess! But Deidara didn't look back. He created a large and fast clay bird and flew straight towards the temple. He put his eye gadget on and began to scout the path towards the temple, looking for Kurohiri. Ninjas took about 2 days to reach the temple, meaning 4 days ago meant that Kurohiri would have arrived at the temple itself 2 days ago, before Deidara exploded it, which happened 1 day ago. However, Deidara remembered that Kurohiri stayed a day in the temple when he came to recruit him, so it was likely that she was there when the temple exploded. But Deidara kept on scouting. He saw merchants, travelers, other stone ninjas, but no sign of her. Deidara couldn't give up. Maybe she didn't stay the night there. Maybe she left the same day. But that wasn't like her. She would give the recruits time to say goodbye, just like she did before. It took a few hours of flying for Deidara to see the sites of destruction he had created where the temple once stood, but he got there. However, he did not see Kurohiri along the way. She wasn't coming back to the stone village. Deidara landed near a small crowd of people who stared at the former temple. Most of them seemed happy with the arrival of a stone ninja. Mister, do you know what happened here? A confused man asked. Deidara ignored that question. I will tell you, an old woman said. I live in a small village nearby. It happened 2 nights ago. The gates of hell opened. The temple exploded, and the fire was so bright I thought I would go blind. And then came the shockwave. It shattered all my windows. Those monks, they did something foul. Yes, they did. And they got their retribution, the old lady prophesied. Deidara located a merchant caravan in the crowd. They had a lot of merchandise on their wagons. You, merchants, did you come here from the stone village? Yes, we did. How long ago did you leave? We left the stone village about 3 weeks ago. We passed by cities and outposts till we got here. This was our next stop, but we don't know what happened to the temple. Did a small group of stone ninjas pass by you, led by a pretty woman with dark, short hair? Yeah, actually, they passed by us 3 or 4 days ago. They bought a few supplies, and then she said they were headed to the temple. The merchant's face became grim, and Deidara stood there, staring at the crater he had created. Kurohiri was there. She She was there, and Deidara would never be able to talk to her again, never be able to see her happy face. He didn't even remember what their last interaction was about, the last words they exchanged. He tried to recollect them, but he just couldn't.
Damn you, unsightly temple! You took her from me! You took everything from me! You damn monks killed her!
Deidara shouted, drawing the eyes of the crowd. They started to ask more questions, but Deidara ignored them, hopped on his bird, and flew away. The journey back to the village was a blur. Deidara's mind was a disjointed mess of thoughts and emotions. He didn't know what to do. Would the village want retribution for what he did? They certainly wouldn't mind destroying a temple. The Kurohiri was there, and Kurotsuchi. How would Deidara even tell her that her mom was killed by that temple? When he arrived back, he circled above the stone village, time and time again, wasting time and procrastinating. He simply didn't want to go down there and face what would happen, whatever it was. Suddenly, Deidara realized that he enjoyed the status quo his life had been on, and now everything had changed. Then again, explosions were about changing things, altering their state from intact to destroyed, and in that process, revealing their beauty. So art itself was change. Deidara had to embrace it. He only managed to make his way home after the sunset. Before he got inside, he spat some of his creations to the ground using his mouth hands, and sent his large bird back up. Once he entered his home, he found Kurotsuchi taking a nap in the living room, hugging the white fox plushie Deidara had given her. Kurotsuchi! She woke up, startled. You're finally back. Where have you been all this time? And you look pale. How would you like to die? What the hell are you talking about? Just answer me. Of old age? What about Kurohiri? How do you think she would have liked to die? What the hell are these questions? Just answer me. Of old age too, of course. Is this one of your artistic things? Asking about death? That temple. I'm sorry, Kurotsuchi, but the temple killed Kurohiri. What? What are you talking about? That cursed place. It took away my parents and my life, and now it took away my second mother. Deidara, what are you saying? She stood up with tears in her eyes. It was such an ugly and foul place. The monks, they were evil incarnate. Deidara, can you explain what the hell you're talking about? A knock came from the door. Anbu ops, open up. Kurotsuchi kept on staring at Deidara, but she walked to the door and opened it for two masked stone Anbu ninjas. They entered their home. Kurotsuchi, Deidara, Lord Tsuchikage commanded us to relay a message. A messenger falcon has just arrived to the village. The Erode temple has been completely devastated. We don't know if Kurohiri was there when it happened, but a team was sent to investigate. She wasn't there. I already did the investigating. Deidara's tone was dark. What? Kurotsuchi screamed, tears now streaming down her face. That temple claimed many lives. Kurohiri was another one of those. But don't worry, the temple is gone now. Its ugliness will never harm anyone ever again. Two white clay grasshoppers jumped from the ceiling towards the back of the neck of each Anbu member. Deidara motioned a quick hand sign, and they exploded with a small charge, dropping the two Anbu in an instant. Deidara, what the hell? What are you doing? Kurotsuchi screamed. She hadn't even finished her sentence when a large clay centipede emerged from the ground and wrapped itself around Kurotsuchi. I have no future here. They'll arrest me or kill me, and so I won't be able to produce my art. So I'm leaving. Didn't you hear what they said? And why did you kill them? What the hell? Kurotsuchi tried to unentangle herself. Do not move. You know what happens if you do. Her eyes opened wide in shock, and she stopped trying to release herself. The situation overwhelmed her senses, and she trembled. What is the meaning of this? Deidara, we're siblings. After I was done with my last mission, I just couldn't stand that temple anymore. I hated it too much. Its ugliness, its lack of art. How they told the world they were the best. How they brainwashed us. All it stood for was a mistake. I had to correct that, so I used my most powerful art piece and destroyed it. I had no idea Kurohiri was inside. The temple claimed her life. Are you insane? The temple didn't kill her. You did, you monster! She died in a beautiful bang, a death anyone should be proud of. In her last moments, she achieved beauty only a few could ever dream of. For my art will never be surpassed. Kurohiri will always have died to the most beautiful ninjutsu of all. Deidara heard ninjas dashing towards the house, no doubt because of the explosion sounds. Goodbye, Kurotsuchi. Deidara said to a crying, desperate girl trapped by the clay centipede. He left his former home and spotted a three-man squadron rushing his way. Deidara's large bird dived down from the sky and exploded on them, wiping them out in an instant. Deidara created a large flying bird, the quickest variety he knew. More stone ninjas came down upon him, but Deidara was ready. He sent small birds at them. They exploded all around found Deidara, killing the enemies and obscuring the street with ash and smoke. He broke through the smoke and took to the sky on his bird, flying up. The bird's wings beat very fast.
What is the meaning of this, Deidara?
The Tsuchikage screamed, flying his way. The old man was fast. I knew you would come for me, old fart. Deidara sent a flock of birds, dashing towards the Tsuchikage. Onoki weaved hand signs and spat pieces of rock that intercepted them in the sky. Several explosions dotted the night sky of the stone village as Onoki kept on spitting the rocks, even after all the birds were destroyed, to aim for Deidara, who in turn dodged them, flying with elegance on top of his agile bird.
You destroyed that temple, didn't you? You're the only one capable of doing that. Did you know Kurohiri was in there?
I destroyed the temple, but it was the temple that killed her.
That's foolishness, boy!
Onoki kept on chasing Deidara, who circled above the stone village. Thousands of people now watched the fight from below, including Kurotsuchi after the centipede lost its grip on her. Deidara's hands bit on a massive amount of clay.
You stupid brat! I thought you had become a stone ninja! I thought we gave you everything! I provided you with all you wanted!
I am first and foremost an artist, old fart! That temple was an outrage. It shouldn't exist! All those monks deserve to die!
You are out of your damn mind! You learned nothing! You cannot simply wipe out an entire population in the land of Earth! And you cannot kill your own ninja!
Quiet, you hypocrite bastard! You didn't care when I was doing it to your enemies! But art is art, no matter the recipient. It knows no bounds. And now, I will show you what happened to that temple. I shall give you my final performance. Deidara created the same doll he used to destroy the stone temple. Behold, my C3 Ohako! The doll expanded to a size much larger than his bird.
If something like that explodes, now it makes sense how he destroyed the temple. I had no idea he had such a powerful jutsu in his arsenal. I underestimated him.
Onoki thought.
I'm sorry, brat, but you have become too much of a problem.
Onoki said, weaving hand signs.
Particle style! Atomic dismantling jutsu!
A beam of white light erupted from his hands in the geometric form of a column thicker than his body. The great beam cruised the dark sky above the village with insane speed and hit Deidara, his bird, and the massive doll that was about to plummet, deleting all three of them from existence. Kurotsuchi watched from below at the moment Deidara, who she had considered as a brother, turned to dust. The entire village did. She forced herself to stop crying and return home, grabbed the white fox plushie and spat a drop of lava on it, burning it slowly but surely until there was nothing left but ash. I have to admit, the old fart's jutsu was pretty artistic. It just lacked some pop. A peasant said, looking up at the fight, as Onoki turned Deidara into dust. The peasant was outside of the stone village, and he was the real Deidara, transformed. He used the cover of the smoke his explosions created on the street to produce a clay clone, and transform his real self to slip away from the village, as all eyes were turned towards the sky. I could have dodged that, you know, old fart, but this way you'll think I'm dead for a long time, won't you? Deidara said to no one in particular. He kept on walking until he was far enough away from the village to create a bird and fly without being spotted. Deidara would leave the land of Earth, explore new places in the world, find new opportunities to showcase his art far away from the grip of the stone village. He had to make sure his ninjutsu would always be the most beautiful of all, not only because the virtuous search for beauty, but to ensure Kurohiri's death would always remain the most beautiful possible, to make her sacrifice worthwhile. Over the following months, Deidara took a lot of jobs where he could use his explosions, produce his art to the fullest. He always used his headband to take the jobs to show that he came from a powerful shinobi village and had proper ninja training. That way, his contractors would be more willing to give Deidara difficult missions that required a lot of his art, the ones Deidara wanted to do the most. He didn't charge much, only enough to sustain himself, and didn't ask any questions, working for anyone who would give him a proper job. Deidara was aware he was a rogue ninja, but he didn't mind. His newfound freedom was refreshing, and because Deidara didn't charge much and asked no questions, combined with his impressive success rate, he became a highly demanded asset for many organizations that used him for all sorts of missions. Because of that, he gained a lot of notoriety and his reputation became fierce, especially within the black markets around the shinobi continent. A few ambush stone ninjas even tried to ambush and eliminate Deidara, but he easily disposed of them. Apparently the stone them found out he escaped, but it was too late now. His trick had worked, so there was nothing the stone could do to bring him back. And Deidara couldn't say he missed his old village too much. Perhaps the life he lived with Kurohiri and Kurotsuchi, but his new freedom and the possibility of using his art much more freely offset that. Though Deidara really wished he could see the old fart's face once he realized he hadn't finished the job and Deidara was indeed alive. Still, he would likely never return to the land of Earth. After traveling much more around the continent, he found that it was by far the ugliest place he had ever been. All other places were much better and had a greater sense of aesthetics. Not just the villages themselves, but also the landscapes. One day, he received a message that there were new prospective clients asking for him specifically, so Deidara went to the meeting point to receive his new mission. It was a temple in the land of grass. When he entered the temple, he was taken aback. There were 3 weirdos with black cloaks stamped with red clouds and crossed off headbands. One of them was blue. Regardless, Deidara didn't ask any questions. He just did the job. "What do you have for me?" "We don't have a mission for you. We have come here to recruit you," the man with black hair said. "What? I'm not interested. If you don't have a job, then see ya." "Oh, please. I believe you should consider it. We're the Akatsuki. Have you heard of us?" The blue man asked with a chuckle. "Akatsuki? Don't know and don't care." From this point, we get a full flashback of Deidara joining the Akatsuki, fighting Itachi, and all those things we saw during the Sasuke vs Deidara fight, it's happening here instead. This flashback will actually end the Stone Village and Deidara flashback section of the arc, as Deidara gets angry because the Sharingan, a form of art he finds even more beautiful than his own, but doesn't acknowledge it and seeks to destroy it, to make his own art prevail in order to simply be the greatest artist on the planet, but also to keep Kurohiri's legacy alive. Deidara appeared at the dark forest below. The sky had been black for a long time now. He had been searching for Sasuke Uchiha for hours, his obsession growing stronger by the minute. Deidara saw that eye, that crimson eye, the Sharingan in his mind's eye. It mocked him. It was almost as though it dared Deidara to use his art against it, to try and prove himself with an air of superiority, as if Deidara was nothing. He would prove that eye wrong. He would find the Uchiha boy and finish the job. And after him, it would be Itachi. "Senpai!" Tobi said, now flying on a second bird nearby Deidara's. He got fed up with Tobi's antics and kicked him out of his bird, creating a new one for him. That allowed Deidara to concentrate better on the search for Sasuke. "What is it, Tobi?"
It's almost 4 a.m. It's pitch black. You can't find anyone during the night like this.
"Scouting is a speciality of mine, Tobi. Do not underestimate me."
Oh, come on. We could just fight during the day. And why do you want to fight him so bad? We're not on a time crunch.
That eye of his, I will destroy it. Every single one of them. They will not triumph.
Oh, sure, but you can't do that during the day.
I cannot let Sasuke Uchiha find Itachi first, because then one is gonna kill the other, and I won't be able to kill both of them. Do you understand? I will kill every single Uchiha. Itachi has already stolen so many kills off of me. He won't steal Sasuke. My art will prevail. Deidara looked at something below and opened a wide smile.
Senpai, you're scary!
Sasuke woke up at around 4 a.m. He rested well and recovered a good portion of his chakra, but the fight against Naruto was still fresh in his mind. The wind-style Rasengan, that wasn't something Sasuke expected Naruto to produce, and neither was that sealing jutsu and the trick with Sakura. That made Sasuke angry. He let his emotions dictate his actions. He had to be cold, heartless. That's what he needed to be until Itachi was dead. Sasuke walked through the forest, making his way towards his team wherever they were. He didn't know if they would be at a meeting point, but Sasuke figured Karin would use her sensory capabilities to find him, if she wasn't captured or neutralized, of course. Sasuke was aware of the possibility of running into more leaf ninjas, which shouldn't be so detrimental now, seeing he had recovered a decent amount of chakra, but it would be best to avoid more encounters before he found Itachi. He turned around with a brisk motion, noticing a presence in the forest. Who goes there? Tobi emerged from the trees, just like in the original, and this is where we get Sasuke versus Deidara. Now, I will explain the changes to this fight in the rewrite. The first and pretty obvious one in the context here is that the fight will happen during the night. Deidara's explosions and Sasuke's lightning style will look very aesthetic that way, and it's kind of a theme of the Stone Village arc here. All the fights pretty much happen during the night. It's a good change in scenery from all the other fights that happened during the Itachi Pursuit arc, which were during the day. The second change to this fight is that the flashback of Deidara joining the Akatsuki will not happen in the middle of the fight, as it already happened before, but we can still have brief flashes to expose Deidara's thoughts when he's thinking of Itachi and the Sharingan as his anger grows during the fight. The third change is that, well, there will be no other changes. This fight is pretty much perfect and extremely underrated in the series. But because this fight is probably the most controversial fight of the entire series, I will use this section of the rewrite to explain why it's not changing. Now, a lot of people don't like this fight because Sasuke wins it, which you can't do much about it. People don't like Sasuke, it's their loss. But if it was Naruto in the same situation, they wouldn't complain, it's just because it's Sasuke. But there are points that people bring up saying that Sasuke should have lost the fight, which are completely incorrect. One of them is that people say that Sasuke's lightning style should not have countered Deidara's explosions. But Deidara's explosions were clay based off of earth style. The explosion style is a combination of lightning and earth styles. And a lightning style attack managed to diffuse the earth style in the clay, rendering them useless. It's a very interesting mechanic that happened in the fight. It made for some amazing moments, and it was a mechanic developed beforehand. So it didn't come out of nowhere like a Deus Ex Machina so that Sasuke could win the fight. It's pretty obvious that clay would be a derivative of earth style, right? So it does make sense here. We saw Kakashi completely annihilating Kakuzu's earth style in the previous arc, and the entire explanation about lightning being strong against earth. And if you want to go even further back, we saw Sasuke's Chidori overpowering Gaara's sand, which is magnet style, which is the combination of earth and wind styles, meaning that lightning style managed to overpower the earth style portion of Akatsuki Genkai even back in Naruto Part 1. And some people say that, oh, it doesn't make sense that lightning beats earth because in the real world it's like the opposite. Lightning can't do much against earth. And that is true, but I don't need Naruto to be consistent with the real world. I need Naruto to be consistent with itself. The magic system can explore several different things. It doesn't have to be exactly like it is in the real world, so lightning beats earth in the Naruto universe, which is a rule that Kishimoto came up with, and he was very consistent with it, which makes sense, hence I don't have to change that. The second problem people bring up is the reverse summon and how Sasuke escaped C0. Yes, that was the first time Sasuke used a reverse summon. That was the first time in the entire series, actually, that anybody used a reverse summon. But even though that wasn't developed in the series, it does make sense. What do you think would happen if you summoned a massive creature, made the creature eat you via a control genjutsu, and then summoned the creature? You would probably just go with the creature, right? You wouldn't stay where you were and the creature go and you're just slimy with saliva or stomach fluids. So that mechanic does make sense, even though it appears for the first time in that fight. And in the rewrite, I have used the reverse summon several times to prepare it as a bit of foreshadowing for this fight. And Sasuke has also used mind control genjutsu several times, not only against people but also against other summons, including a Manda-sized summon in Gamma Hero during the fight against Jiraiya. So that is all well prepared for. Another issue people have with the reverse summon is that Sasuke summoned Manda way too fast, which is completely debunked by the very beginning of the Deidara vs Sasuke fight when Sasuke summons a snake to serve as a shield in a split second. Deidara's explosives were about to hit Sasuke, we don't even see him weaving hand signs, and he summons a white snake. It's a smaller snake, but it's a summoning jutsu, which should work pretty much instantaneously so he can get out of the way. We see that the C0 explosion is not instantaneous, there's a lot of charge time, there's that bright light that comes out of Deidara's chest, and yes, Manda is very hurt and dies after Tsuigetsu summons it back, and you can assume it took the beginning of the explosion before it completely took shape, and that's why it died and it didn't get completely disintegrated. Another argument people have against Sasuke winning this fight by unsummoning himself was that he didn't have enough chakra to summon Manda and put Manda under a genjutsu, and people especially come up with that because Deidara called Sasuke out saying he has no chakra anymore. Remember, Deidara was not a sensory type, he had no idea of the exact amount of chakra Sasuke would have, and yeah, Sasuke was tired and he looked really rough, but that's because he had to Chidori himself in order to defuse the C4 nano explosives inside of his body. If he was completely out of chakra, Orochimaru would have emerged out of him, in the original series that is, because the Orochimaru mechanics will be a bit different in the rewrite, you'll see when we get to it. Needless to say, Sasuke still had enough chakra to summon Manda at that point. If Kabuto back in Naruto Part 1, after eating a Rasengan from Naruto and being unable to completely heal himself because the damage was too extensive and he didn't have enough chakra, was able to summon Manda afterwards, like 5 minutes after that, then Sasuke would definitely have enough chakra to do so. Overall, this fight is amazing. Not only does it have probably the best tactics out of any Naruto fight that doesn't involve Shikamaru, the thematic is also extremely interesting, with Deidara trying to prove his art is better than the Sharingan, obsessing over it, and at the very end, his ultimate masterpiece, the C0, is beaten by the Sharingan, controlling Manda in that scenario. But overall, the theme is that the Sharingan does beat Deidara, and that's frustrating for Deidara, obviously. And the reason why people don't really appreciate that fight as much as they should should is because it sorta comes out of nowhere in the original. That's the reason why I did this entire arc in the rewrite. It was in order to prepare for the Sasuke versus Deidara fight, to develop Deidara as well as the Stone Village and several characters from the Stone Village and expand the world building, but to give Deidara more character, a more extensive background, and make the Sasuke versus Deidara fight more climactic and emotional. So this episode ends with a C0 explosion going off, mimicking the shape of the first explosion Deidara has ever created with those paper bombs in the beginning of the arc. Watch part 55 right here. Definitely like the video to help this series go around YouTube, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Ring those notifications and let me know in the comments what you thought about the episode. Thank you so much for watching.